Welcome to another episode of Make Good Food and Make Good Choices. And I think, students, that this is going to be one of your absolute favorite soups ever. It's one of my family's favorites. I always like to bring you the favorites that everybody loves, and here's how it's going to go. Have the ingredients prepped ahead of time, and we're going to work with some fresh herbs, dried herbs. We're going to work with onion, garlic, and you can substitute whatever you want. Here, I am doing Italian sausage, but you could do rotisserie chicken, ground turkey, whatever you would like. And then we're going to move on to tomatoes. Keeping it simple, this is one of those fast soups that can sit for a couple of hours and serve a big family, or break it up and do little meals of freezing the soup and have that for a couple of weeks. So I do use the quick canned, and I like to use the diced, or you could do petite diced. If you wanted to do fresh, you could. And I do buy the basil garlic already seasoned tomatoes. You get to choose whatever you'd like. I have some chicken broth. You could do vegetable broth. You could create this soup and make it a vegetarian version as well, and just use vegetable broth. So whatever you have. I prefer this better than bouillon, just because it's small and I can make a large amount with that, but you can also buy it already pre-done in a container at the grocery store. And then we're going to finish this off with spinach or kale. You get to choose. I actually have both right here because it was on sale at the grocery store. Do not tell my family that this is how much kale I'm putting in. You will see it disappear. You'll be really surprised. And then we're going to finish it off with grated Parmesan, which is more of what you would see traditionally, kind of the powdered. And then there's also the shaved Parmesan. These are the little thin shavings. I like to use that as a garnish, and then we'll use some fresh basil. All right, ready to get started? First things first, we're gonna go ahead and prepare our onion, and then everything's gonna move into one stock pot. We'll start to brown the meat with some olive oil. We'll do garlic, onion, and let that sit for a little while, and then we'll quickly add in the tomatoes, the spices, and finish it with the spinach and kale. I did show you how to prep an onion, and so you remember your cutting board and your knife are always best friends. I only need a half an onion. Keep the what end on. I just gave you the answer. The root end on. Yes. So we're going to go ahead, cut that off. Peel your onion. You could use a red onion, yellow. This is a sweet onion. Again, whatever's at the grocery store. I like to have a garbage bowl nearby. So any of the scraps can go in there. Keeps your kitchen workspace really clean. So now I've got a half an onion, flat surface, and what I'm going to do is, here's my root, cut, slice this way, and then down, perfectly diced onion. All right, so remember when you're gripping like this on the sides, watching where your fingers are. Them fairly large because this is a soup, and then just go straight down. There's really no crying involved because you do it so quickly. You don't even have to worry. Now I want it flat surface again, and my root end here, and now my onion is prepped, ready to go. What I really like about these kind of cutting boards is it's easy just to drop in. So we'll set that to the side, and we are prepped. One more thing I want to share with you before I move into the actual preparation of the soup is fresh basil. Quick tip, you can buy this at the grocery store just like this as the plant version. I've had this for about 2 weeks and able to pluck off pieces of basil just like this. It's really fragrant. I love fresh basil. And in doing so, setting this in a window, just adding a little bit of water. There you are, always ready to go. And it'll last you several weeks. But we're gonna use an Italian seasoning. So this is just a rustic Tuscan seasoning, and it has oregano and garlic and sea salt and basil. And a little bit of red bell pepper. I even snuck in some fresh thyme. I'm using a mortar and pestle, just mixing it together, all those seasonings. Release some of the oil. And that's ready to go. 2 tablespoons I'll be adding in there as well. Okay, so then next we're gonna do this already seasoned Italian sausage. I'll pop in, and guess what, guys? When you're working with canned products, whether it's soup or vegetables, I want you cleaning off the tops of your cans, especially now, wiping them down and making sure that those are clean. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to my pot. And whether you wanna use fresh garlic, 2 cloves, or if you want to purchase already minced garlic. So minced is tiny. I've had students grab a bulb of garlic and think that that's, or a whole bulb of it, and think that's how much to put in, when really it's just a clove. So you can, if you want, go ahead and press down, dice this up by hand, or use a garlic press and then just squeeze. I prefer the press, it's just less messy. And that's done. I need 2, so I wanted to show you both, and I just need to add in another. I'll do, it's about 2 teaspoons of garlic. Okay, we are gonna saute the garlic, the olive oil, and the onion until the onion is a little bit translucent. I'm gonna add in our Italian sausage, and we'll get started. Just gonna stir this around till it's a little translucent, and then we're going to add in our Italian sausage. All right, they're slightly translucent. Hey, when you are mixing, I wanna make sure your one hand is on your handle and the other hand is on your wooden spoon. You're gonna add in the Italian sausage. Make sure you're always holding on. Break that up, and we will brown this on medium-high heat until it is cooked all the way through. I know some of you do not have a chopper like this, but it was about the best $5 I've ever spent. We'll break up ground beef, ground pork, chicken, perfectly. This looks perfect, and you're going to see when you're using beef or pork, you might have excess fat. I want to show you how to drain that off. Some chefs would say leave it in for flavor, and some would say get rid of it for health. It's up to you and your family, but if I lean it, what I'm going to do is just scoop it out, and I lined a small bowl with tin foil. It's easy to scoop out, and then all you have to do is throw that tin foil away. Once your meat is completely done browning, next you'll add in your tomatoes. Like I said, just 2 cans, about 28 ounces of tomato, whether you have them pre-seasoned or not. And you do not need to drain that. The juice will work really well with your soup. Just add those in. And we're going to do 8 cups of chicken broth. Now we'll add in 3 spinach or kale, or in this case, both. And you'll see this disappear. So every good soup has herbs and spices to elevate and infuse throughout the soup, and I really want the basil to stand out in this soup. So I showed you the fresh basil, and an easy way to cut is a chiffonade style. Layer up your leaves. You want to wash your fresh herbs. You'll stack your leaves one on top of each other. Give it a quick little roll, and you're ready to go. And tiny little slices will give you the results that you need. In addition to the basil, I'm going to add in the Tuscan seasoning that I showed earlier and add about 2 tablespoons. Now, you'll notice I put the lid on because as your soup is simmering, and you want it to simmer for a couple of hours, I don't want to lose any liquid through evaporation. So that's my little trick. Go ahead, add, and I'm using the back of the knife, add in your fresh herb. If you don't have fresh basil, that's okay. Any Italian seasoning is going to do. I have improvised with this recipe so many times because sometimes I'll have fresh, sometimes not. But always, out of convenience, having dried herbs, it's just you always have them. So I'm adding in, to start, 2 tablespoons. And in a little while, I will taste that, see what it's like, and if I need to add more, I can. It's easy to add more. It's impossible to take away. So add slowly and taste as you go. You would never have guessed that the 3 cups of spinach would have wilted this much, and that's absolutely magical. And guess what? People won't know which is the basil, which is the spinach. All right, our last step is to add our tortellini. If you're not a tortellini fan, that's okay. You can do any kind of pasta. When you do that, you could either use fresh tortellini, like I have here. This is cheese tortellini, or frozen. If you're going to do a dry pasta, please make sure that you add an extra half a cup of chicken broth or your liquid, because it will absorb in your soup. All right, let's add this. When adding the tortellini, I want you to be careful that you always let your steam go out the back side, so lifting up your lid away from you. When you set it down, if you set it on a flat counter, sometimes it can adhere, so make sure you have something underneath. Let's add the tortellini. Nice and low so you don't splash. I'm going to add about 3 cups. Let's save the rest for later. This will take, because these tortellini are fresh, about 3 minutes. If you're doing dried, it'll take about 8 minutes. And then we'll get ready to garnish it in a bowl. Let's bowl this up. Using a ladle. And I was careful not to overcook the tortellini. This looks fantastic. It smells wonderful. Let's garnish it. You can use grated or shredded Parmesan. If you have a sprig of basil, great. And maybe a little cracked pepper. And now that is making good food and good choices.